I mean, tear gas is not a fun situation at all. Pouring water is your second option. Milk really is the best thing to pour on your eyes if you're in that situation. But you can see these guys are just, continuing to pour. But I want to point out, they've been tear gassed. They know how badly it hurts, and they're still in the area.
That's right.
Right? So these people are still wanting to protest. And I would say, with the exception of a couple of people in that situation, it has been fairly calm out there. There have certainly been people that have been kind of giving it to the federal agents there and going back and forth with them. We saw that tackle of one of the federal agents that took that person down into custody, ripped the mask off his face. But they're still launching tear gas and pepper balls and all of those things at these protesters. Michelle got caught up in it. You see other people here getting caught up in it as well that are dealing with all of the situation as Michelle and Tim Kimball try to walk back. And we apologize for the people that are less than happy to see our cameras there as the situation is tense, it's heated, and there's a lot going on down there.
No doubt. And this is Michelle Geely's camera that we're looking at right now, Mike.
Correct.
And throughout the day, it's kind of ping-pong between downtown LA and Santa Ana.
Right.
Things kind of get heated in downtown, things calm down in Santa Ana, then it's the reverse. And nightfall is not too far from right now, so a big concern with that.
Yeah, it's definitely the ebb and flow. And what's happening in Santa Ana, the reason we believe that it popped off in Santa Ana today is because there were raids in Santa Ana. Michelle had told us there was one at a Carl's Jr., one at a Home Depot, and that's how this all started on Friday when we had the raids in LA County.
That's right.
And there's Michelle. I don't know if she can hear us or if she's ready yet.
Michelle, are you okay?
Yes. Yes. That's a first for me. I apologize. I thought that I could run faster than the smoke, and that didn't happen, obviously. But two people here were so kind and just doused me with water, and we're good. Everybody seems to be fine here, but okay, they're pouring milk in a woman's eyes here. That was powerful and strong and unexpected, honestly, although it has been happening for the last several hours. But it looked as though maybe there were some officers taking people into custody, and we were trying to kind of get a view of that. And then the officers started lobbing deep into the crowd, because we've kind of tried to keep ourselves farther back so we can not be hit with it. But they were throwing these projectiles, this less than lethal stuff, very, very deep into the crowd, so really not many people could escape it. Tim got hit again. Okay, here we go again. We're going to move. Okay. We're going to move back so we don't get hit again. Because like I said, they're throwing very deep into the crowd, obviously trying to push everybody out of this area. Just to put it in perspective, people are running toward Ross Street. So this is Santa Ana Boulevard and Ross Street, right near the very, very large federal courthouse, the Reagan building. So the tactic must be to get people away from that one federal building where they have blocked the door, and where earlier in the day employees were trying to get out. And so they're trying to drive people into the center of town, which is kind of the historic Old Town district.
Michelle, we appreciate your reporting so much, but we do want you and your photographer to stay safe. So please, if you can get to a safer area for us, and we will come back to you. But as you can see from Michelle's picture, things getting pretty intense there in Santa Ana as protesters sort of walk back from the law enforcement agencies who are pushing them back from the federal building right now.
And there's that confusion, Susie. Was it a firework? Was it an explosion? Was it another round of tear gas? Was it the less than lethal weapons that are being thrown into the crowds there? Very confusing. So our Michelle Geely and her photographer, they're going to move into an area that's a little bit safer. But you can see, as Michelle's talking about wanting to disperse the crowd, you can see where some of those orange barriers are and where the crowd is now. They've created quite a bit of separation between the federal building there and where these people are running.
Let's go to our Tom Wade now. You joined us live. Tom, where are you?
And Susie, we're just about a half a block away from LAPD headquarters. You can see it there just up the block. There's a gathering of officers just out in front. This is First Street in Los Angeles. Still a lot of people out on the streets tonight, kind of walking around, a lot of air support. We're not too far from Lori Perez. She's a few blocks down the street from us, kind of in an area, I think, where there's a higher concentration of people. There's still a lot of volatility here, you know, as this is kind of the area where a lot of some of the skirmishes between police and the crowd played out. Just a short time ago, I saw police having to use their less than lethal weapons. They fired some of those some of those objects back at protesters when they were being hit with objects, either water bottles or other objects that were being thrown. Sometimes plastic, sometimes glass bottles were being thrown. In fact, I was just standing next to a group of officers a few minutes ago when a glass bottle was hurled at them and came very close to hitting all of us. So it's still a volatile situation out here. There's still a lot, there's a lot of anger here on the streets and a lot of people, I think, just trying to channel that in a way that is practical and also nonviolent. But of course, there's also people out here still causing a lot of problems. In fact, it's even hard to show you some video and some shots because we have so much there's so much graffiti out here with a lot of bad language. So we're trying to avoid showing a lot of that stuff. But it does look like the LAPD has done a pretty effective job, and maybe there's other departments out here as well, done a pretty effective job in breaking things up. There's not a large concentration of people here as we've seen the last few nights. Obviously, that's by design. They're trying to get people to leave and to move on to avoid another night of confrontations and violence. The LAPD has just a swarm of officers right up the street from us, and they're also positioned at various buildings, City Hall, some of the other buildings downtown, county buildings, and other office buildings where there's been a lot of graffiti or vandalism. So I think they're trying to tamp this all down now, and it's unclear if any of these National Guard soldiers have arrived or Marines. We've not seen any of them, at least not in a way that some dramatic arrival, right? So what we're seeing and I think you're seeing now down the road there is a larger concentration of some of the remnants of the larger crowd that was out, kind of concentrated in the City Hall area. If you were watching our coverage earlier, kind of where Jasmine Veal was. So a lot of those people were pushed out. They moved columns of officers in, started firing some tear gas and other non-lethal deterrent measures, and that kind of really broke things up. That was probably a couple hours ago maybe, and that really kind of broke up the crowd where we were, and now you kind of see them pushed down the block there. That's still on First Street, just down the street there, and that's kind of where everybody seems to be. That seems to be the largest amount of people that I've seen in the several block area that we've been walking around near City Hall. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land right now. It's interesting because at times things seem kind of quiet, and then I think Lori Perez was just saying it can turn in a second. Someone throws something or someone revs up an engine and hits the gas, and it can really sort of rile people up. But at this point right now, it looks like they've done a pretty effective job with their tactics anyway of getting people dispersed.
Yeah, it's great to see this, Tom, because not only are we seeing people walking hand in hand, we saw a couple walking through there. You do see some protesters as well, but Susie, look at this. They're letting traffic through the area as well.
It's true. So,
Yep.
Tom, I was wondering, those people who were passing you by, the demonstrators, are they walking away from the larger group that was broken up?
It looks, Susie, right now like people are kind of walking toward the larger crowd that's down the street from me. I think that's the crowd that Lori was following earlier. So that crowd, I think a lot of those people were near the spot where I am right now, which is basically just a block away from City Hall, less than that. So that seems to be where everybody's moving, and I can see a LAPD chopper kind of hovering in that area kind of, I think it might be near Japantown, in that area there.
Oh, Tokyo, yeah.
It seems like that's where Little Tokyo, excuse me. People have moved. That was, yeah. Thank you for correcting me on that.
No problem, Tom. Of course.
But yeah, that is the area where you're seeing people in concentration. I think the police kind of in a more macro way are doing what they do when people are concentrated in one spot. They when they form those skirmish lines, they kind of collapse, and it kind of disperses the crowd. It seems like that's what they're doing, just sort of on a larger scale, and they move in very quickly, and it's kind of like a shock and awe kind of thing. It scares people, they run, they scatter, and that's kind of what we've been seeing playing out in the last couple hours here.
Yeah, so, all of us wondering what nightfall will bring, and of course, we've watched these protests over the last couple of days turn into some violence. And, we have to say that the majority of these protests, though, have been peaceful. The people who have participated in these protests have been peaceful for the most part. But as Mayor Karen Bass was pointing out today, there are those individuals who will start trouble for whatever reason, who may not even be involved with what is happening here and the real issue at hand. And that's what incites a lot of this violence.
Yeah, in fact, Susie, LAPD Chief Jim McDonald said that there are regular agitators who show up at these demonstrations. They cause trouble, so they're aware that this is going to happen, right, Mike? They know that there's the people who are out there protesting peacefully, as we've seen, and then these folks that kind of like mix in with the crowd and maybe the first ones to throw a bottle or to throw out a firework, and then suddenly everything changes very quickly. Very quickly, and yeah, I mean, I think the crowd that we're seeing, at least in downtown LA, Santa Ana was a little bit different, but at least in downtown LA, this is the type of activity that the mayor and the governor and all of those people have been saying, this is what it should be. Express your First Amendment right, be here, protest, do what you want, don't get violent. And this is the crowd now that you're looking at live from SkyCal. That's at 2nd and I think John told me Aliso, where this is happening. 2nd and Alameda, thank you, John, where this crowd is gathering, and you have the large contingency of law enforcement, like Tom mentioned, but they're not really doing anything, right? Last night by this time we had already had 5 Waymos set on fire, we had trash cans on fire, we had a hot mess of everything going on.
The freeway shut down.
The freeway shut down, CHP cars destroyed and set on fire. Such literally night and day from yesterday to today, and this is what everyone has been calling for. This is what the elected leaders have been asking for. And is this calm protesting. And I want to be clear, LAPD has not even declared an unlawful assembly. That's not the case, has not been the case yet. And yesterday we had one declared by like 3:15 in the afternoon, and tonight they are putting out on Twitter, or X, they are aware of the crowd, they are moving the crowd, they are issuing what they're calling traffic advisories. They are saying certainly if you got out of hand, you will be arrested, and they have said some arrests have been made. But you're not seeing this, attempt to do any kind of mass detentions, mass arrests. All of this thing is this crowd is much, much smaller than last night and is gathering here at 2nd and Alameda. Mike, what you were saying, though, earlier today that LAPD and law enforcement out there, they're in a much better position than they were yesterday, right? By far. By far for 2 reasons. A, they have a lot more people, and B, there are a lot less protesters. Yesterday afternoon when I got into work, there was at least, I would say, 1,000 protesters down there. And the problem with yesterday is when that group was so large, they were in so many different areas. Sure. And LAPD could not get enough people in one area to deal with these groups. And so you had kind of these like factions of LAPD that were in different areas trying to deal with the crowd, but it was almost impossible for them to do because the crowd was so large and they were in so many different areas. But today, LAPD was much more strategic about it. They never let them get into Chinatown. They blocked that access off really quickly to keep them away from the 101 freeway, so they didn't have the issues with getting on the freeway, then the issues with throwing things at CHP and all of that situation. So they were very strategic about where they've been pushing the crowd today. And because of that, every time, and we've talked about this, every time they get to an intersection, the crowd starts to split just a little bit. On the left side of your screen is live pictures from SkyCal where it looks like a couple of those arrests are being affected right now. You can see 2 of those people that appear to be in handcuffs, 2 or 3 appear to be in handcuffs and sitting on the wall there. And who knows what they've been, you have some more sitting on the ground there. Well, they're not in handcuffs though. And who knows what they've been arrested for, failure to disperse, if they threw something, all of that will be sorted out by either the DA's office or the city attorney. But in large part, such a different scene than we saw last night.
Sure, and with all the help that the LAPD does have, Chief McDonald also declaring that citywide tactical alert as well, Mike?
Yeah, citywide tactical alert, which means nobody goes home. The chief spoke in his press conference earlier about how they were able to auxiliate 400 additional officers into the downtown area to be there. Part of that, and we've talked about this so much with the conversation regarding the National Guard and federalizing the National Guard. The way it works at a local level, you have LAPD. If LAPD needs help, then they go to the sheriff. And that's what happened last night. The sheriff augmented them with 100 extra LA County Sheriff's deputies. The sheriff for Los Angeles County as a whole is essentially the emergency coordinator. So then the sheriff will make the decision himself. We need additional mutual aid to support LAPD, not even to support his own agency, but to support LAPD. So it goes, LAPD makes the request to the sheriff makes the request to outside agencies, which happened last night, which we got Pasadena, Burbank, Alhambra, Montebello, Torrance PD, all came in to support them. Then, if there is a need beyond that, then that is when the sheriff can go and ask the governor for the National Guard. The problem right now, though, the National Guard has been federalized. So Governor Gavin Newsom doesn't have control over the National Guard. So even if our local officials wanted the National Guard, that's not an option for us right now because they've been taken over by the